Okay, let's just jump right in because what we're talking about today is, well, it's unprecedented. For the first time, really in modern history, we've seen a sitting head of state arrested by a foreign power. We're going to break down exactly what happened with Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, and try to make sense of the chaos that's unfolding right now.
So let's just let that sink in for a second. We're talking about a sitting president in U.S. custody. This isn't a political debate anymore. Nicolas Maduro is out of the presidential palace in Caracas, and he's in a U.S. federal courtroom. I mean, this one event just blows the doors off huge questions about international law, about sovereignty, and of course about the future of Venezuela itself. So first things first, how did this even happen?
All right, Section 1, a president detained. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of the operation itself. Okay, so here's what we know from the initial reports. U.S. forces captured not just President Maduro, but his wife as well. And then, and this is the part that sounds like it's straight out of a movie, they were flown to New York and have already appeared in a federal court. The charges they're facing are incredibly serious. We're talking narcotics, weapons offenses, the whole nine yards. And it's really important to see how the U.S. is framing this. This isn't a political move, they say. It's a criminal prosecution.
But, this whole operation, it wasn't clean. It came at a really staggering human cost. According to Venezuelan officials, as many as 100 people, 100 Venezuelans, were killed during this U.S. operation. Just think about that number for a second. This was not a quiet, surgical strike. It was violent. And in response, the country has declared a full week of national mourning.
Okay, so with Maduro gone, what's Washington's next move? Well, they've been pretty quick to outline their plan.
And wow, the U.S. plan is, to put it mildly, direct. President Trump didn't mince words. He publicly said the U.S. might oversee Venezuela for a year, maybe more, and laid out a very clear goal: control and sell Venezuela's oil. Now, the official line is that this is all to stabilize the country, but, you just can't ignore the massive benefit this has for American energy interests. And this is where you see the world splitting into two camps, right? It's like two totally different realities. On one side, you've got the U.S. position. This was a necessary move to stabilize the region. On the other side, you have a huge part of the global community, including folks at the UN Security Council calling it what it is to them: an unlawful abduction and a massive breach of international law. So, with Maduro out of the picture, you've got this giant power vacuum in Caracas. And the big question everyone is asking is, okay, who's in charge now? Well, things moved fast. Right after Maduro was removed, Venezuela's own institutions scrambled to fill that void. The Supreme Court, with the backing of the military, made a move. And who did they put in charge? Maduro's former VP, Delcy Rodriguez. She's now the interim president. And her very first message to the world? Pure defiance. I mean, despite everything that's happened, the U.S. intervention, the plans for the oil, the new interim president, Rodriguez, came out and stated flatly that Venezuela is still a sovereign nation, that it will not be ruled by a foreign power. Of course, an event this big doesn't just happen in a bubble. The shockwaves are already spreading across the globe, and we're seeing some serious fallout, both financially and diplomatically. So let's break down the reactions we're seeing. You've got the U.S. pushing ahead with its plan to sell Venezuelan oil. Then you have Switzerland, which is a huge deal in global finance, freezing all the financial assets tied to Maduro and his allies. And all the while, the United Nations is sticking to its guns, criticizing the whole thing as a breach of international law.
Okay, so how did we even get to this point? I mean, something this dramatic doesn't just happen overnight. To really get what's happening today, we need to rewind a little and look at the context.
The seeds for this crisis were really planted back in 2025. That's when Maduro started his third term, and it was controversial, to say the least. The inauguration was disputed by tons of people, both in Venezuela and around the world, and that ongoing fight over who was the legitimate leader just created this constant political instability, which ultimately opened the door for this kind of intervention. But here's the thing. Just taking Maduro off the board doesn't magically fix everything. The new interim government under Delcy Rodriguez, it's definitely not being accepted by everyone inside Venezuela. Major opposition figures, including Nobel Prize winner Maria Corina Machado, are flat out rejecting her appointment. For them, the demand is the same as it's always been. They want real, democratic elections. So all of this leaves us with this huge, lingering question. When a foreign country can just come in and remove a leader, and the new government that's put in place isn't even accepted by its own people, what does it even mean for a nation to be sovereign anymore? It's a tough question, and it's one that Venezuela, and honestly, the rest of us, are going to have to grapple with.